All right, so this lesson is actually, once again, very similar to the other lessons that we've been doing. It's looking at these tables and coming up with the rules for them. So in some cases, you will be needing to fill in a table. In other cases, you'll just be looking at it and trying to figure out what the rule is. So let's take a look at the first example. Alex and his older brother Andy have the same birthday. If you know Alex's age, how can you find Andy's age? Look for a pattern in the table and find a rule. So if I have Alex's age is 2, and Andy's age is 8, and then Alex is 4, and Andy is 10, and then Alex is 6 and Andy is 12, 7, and then 13, 9, and then 15. So if this is all I've got to look at, I need to figure out what the rule is. Or really, I just need to figure out how many years older is Andy than Alex. So right off the bat, looking at it, am I going to be doing addition or multiplication as my rule? If I'm talking about years and I'm comparing Andy and Alex in age, it's going to be addition. I never say that I am 2 times more than my brother. That'd be weird. And I'm not. Well, and some people can say that, but usually when we're talking about siblings aren't going to be too far apart, depending. It's not always, My mom and aunt are 11 years apart, so there are some cases still. But usually, even when we're talking about the differences in ages, we usually say addition. So 2 plus what is 8? Okay, is 4 plus 6, 10? Yes. Is 6 plus 6, 12? Yes. Is 7 plus 6, 13? Yes. Is 9 plus 6, 15? Yes. Yes, so I can tell that my rule here is, so R equals plus 6. The first thing that my brain wanted to do was when I saw this right here, the 6 and the 12, I immediately wanted to do what? Say times 2. I wanted to say times 2. But is 2 times 2 8? No. Is 4 times 2 10? No. So that rule only applies to 1. So you kind of have to pay attention to what the situation of the table is as well. So let's look at a money one. So in this one, it actually has a blank thing to fill in. So if I ever have blank stuff, I fill it out. I write the whole thing down, and then I go back and fill in the spaces. So earned on the top and saved on the bottom. Meaning, if I earned 65, I saved 50. If I earned 45, I saved 30. If I earned 50, how much did I save? If I earned 30, I saved 15. If I earned blank, I saved 25. Even if I know what I need to put in the blanks, I don't yet because I want to just double check and make sure. So now I got to figure out what my rule was here. Obviously, looking from the top to the bottom, what's my rule going to start with? It's going to be what kind of math? I'm going to be subtracting because I can tell right now that all the numbers down below that are saved are smaller than the ones on top. And I can also tell that they're not necessarily multiples of themselves. That means I'm not going to be dividing. The only one that I can look at and see a division problem is this one right away. 30 divided by 2 is 15. But none of the other ones work with division. So I know it's going to be subtraction. Now I just got to figure out what. Well, I'm going to actually go back to that 30 and 15. Because to me, that's quick in my head to come up with. Because I know my doubles facts. 30 minus 15 is 15. So maybe that's my rule, and I'm going to go and test it out before I apply it. Is 65 minus 15 50? Well, if it's a little tricky to do in my head, I can take that 15 and make it a 10 and a 5. Take away the 5, it becomes 60. Take away the 10, it becomes 50. So 65 minus 15 is 50. Same thing for 45 and 30. What's 45 minus 15?
30.
40 down to 30. Yep. So I think it's safe to say that my rule here is minus 15. So what's 50 minus 15? Well, 50 minus 10 is 30, or is 40, and then minus 5 is 35. And then what do I have to do here? I'm actually going to have to add. My rule is still minus 15, but in this case I have to add. So what's 25 plus 15? 40. Okay, so really it's just like the other lesson. In fact, it's like the other two lessons because we're still working with tables and we're still filling in charts. But now the most important thing is, what is the rule? So let's take a look at this one. Hours worked, hours earned. So I'm going to put a W for worked. I'm going to put an E for earned. Okay, worked 4 hours, earned 24 bucks. Worked 8 hours, earned 48 bucks. Worked 7 hours, not sure how much I earned, but it's gonna be less because it's less than 8. Worked 2 hours, earned $12. Worked 6 hours, earned blank. Well, first off, this is not going in any order at all, is it? No. So I can't try and rely on any form of consecutive counting here. So 2 hours gives me 12 bucks. Well, what if I put it down to 1 hour? What's 1 hour? If 2 hours is 12, 1 hour would be 6. So maybe that might be a rule. If I'm earning $6 an hour, what's 6 times 4? 24. What's 6 times 8?
48.
Oh, so maybe now I can figure out what the rule is with multiplication. Could I have done 2 times 6 is 12 and still figured it out? Yes, I could have, absolutely. But when I'm looking at something like this, sometimes it's easier to give yourself that key, that 1 times 6 is 6. 1 hour for $6. That's the most important thing that I think of, because then that kind of gives me the rule right then and there. So now it says, the first one, write a rule for the table. Well, the rule is times 6. What are the missing numbers? Okay, so what is 7 times 6?
22.
And what is 6 times 6? There we go. Let's look at number 4. It's a word problem. Marty uses the rule subtract 9 for his table. If the first number in Marty's table is 11, what is the second number in that pair? I'm going to have to draw this out to figure it out. So Marty uses the rule subtract 9. I really don't know how big my table is going to need to be, so I'm just going to kind of start at the beginning. And I know that my rule is minus 9. If the first number in Marty's table is 11, what is the second number in that pair? And when they say in that pair, that means like in that box together. So if the number on top is 11, what's going to be on bottom if my rule is minus 9? 2. And really, that's all the table I need. But if I want to be a smarty pants, I could keep going and say, well, what about, okay, what about 27? What's 27 minus 9? What if I have 15? 15 minus 9 is?
6.
What if I had 32? What's 32 minus 9?
23.
So my rule was minus 9. And remember, when it says, what is the second number in that pair? This right here is a pair of numbers. This is a pair. In one box, the top to bottom, they go together. Okay? So, this is pretty doable. It's making us really use our observation skills and making us really pay attention to the details, which is very good practice for us.